Hey everybody. So I've got the main thrusters working, but I don't have any maneuvering thrusters. In order to work like this, I would need to do, 6-directional orthogonal thrusters like space engineers, and that's just not very stylish. So what I'm going to do is create some maneuvering jets that can point in various directions. I figured I'd show you my process for mocking up these kinds of components. I use Blender. Let's go and take a look. This is the existing engine. Unity has stopped importing objects that have blend keys as skinned mesh renderers. I'm not sure why they decided that it was not a good idea, but now you have to bind them to bones again, and I haven't bothered. Just to let you know, that's why these have shape keys, and we're going to be doing a shape key for our new engine as well. But for starters, let's just duplicate this and hide the old one. We will name this thruster maneuvering, and this will be the base, because it's going to be something that can spin and point in various directions, so we're going to need to have at least two pieces, the base and the actual thruster. So this is the maneuvering base, and I'm going to just copy the original main engine that I was using. The reason for that is because all of my parts share the same connector, and if we look over at the system, not only do all of the main engines share this connector, but every component has the same connector, as you can see. And that means that all of these pieces can just be whipped up real fast, and I can use the same basis for all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply the mirror. Oh, I've got to delete the shape keys. Hold on. There we are. Got to apply the mirror, like so. Go in and delete all of the things that aren't part of the base. I'm being a klutz, sorry. There we are. Deleted too much. I don't want to delete these guys. There we go. So this is the base, and it's going to be the same for almost everything. How do we turn this into the base of our new maneuvering engine? Well, we basically want to fold these 4 pipes into the core and then have the core be just a sort of cup. So that should be pretty easy. To make it easy to make this fold in, we're going to align it with an axis, and that means that we're going to spin this whole thing around the y-axis. There we go. Now it's aligned vertically, and I can just manipulate it using the orthogonal controls rather than having to tilt everything in an awkward way. I got the hiccups. And obviously this is very, very basic stuff. I'm not going into any great detail. I'm just putting together some prototype objects, so there's no reason for me to put a huge amount of detail into this stuff. I just need enough detail to make sure that I know what everything is, and to make sure that when I do produce the final product, all the pieces are the same kind of setup. Their meshes may be a lot more complicated, and they might have levels of detail, but I won't have a situation where I have to split something that was one mesh into 4 meshes or anything like that. So we're going to go and E, shrink down. Now this is why I resolved the mirroring. If you don't have a proper circle, then it's quite difficult to get this sort of smooth circle creation. We would have been like creating a weird square shape, which is no good. Oh, I didn't explain. The reason I'm doing this on camera, there's no real fancy reason. I just felt like making a video where I do something in Blender. I've gotten pretty fast with Blender recently, so it's kind of like, oh yeah, I can finally keep up with my 2D designs using 3D. I used to do a lot of 2D designs because I could do 2D art faster, but now I can do 3D art just as fast, prototype art just as fast, so there's no reason for me to stick solely to 2D. I can now do plenty of 3D stuff. I always did plenty of 3D stuff, but it took forever. This is much, much nicer. I think that'll do. So now what we want to do is rotate it again, but if I rotate from here, you're going to see that we're off-center. So what we need to do is we need to tell it to rotate around the cursor, and then put the cursor in the middle, and then we can rotate 45 degrees. And then what we can do is delete all of the points that aren't in our quadrant and add the mirror modifier back in. XZ clipping should do. And then we can hit, select everything, unwrap, Smart UV project. Now that's just a random shape, a random UV result. That's not going to be particularly great in terms of how it ends up looking. So I won't be using that for like the final release UV mapping, but it works well enough for the quickie stuff. Now what I need to do is create a new mesh that is the nozzle that will spin. So we're going to go ahead and create a UV sphere and change it to, that's probably good, and there we go. And we'll shrink this down, rotate it 90 degrees along the x-axis, bring it out. Yeah, something like this will work fine. And then we'll want to give ourselves a nice bowl engine shape, like something like this. Yeah, that'll do pretty well. And we'll be able to spin that around as we would please. Now, one of the issues we've got here is that the center of this mesh is back here. So if we were to spin it, we would end up, let me just show you here. All right. It doesn't spin in place properly. So what we actually need to do is make sure that the mesh's center is where its 0 point should be. We want it to spin around this point here, like, yeah, maybe even further back than that. Yeah, that's more or less right. And then what we can do is drag it forward in this view, and that'll keep its point of rotation correct. So, as before, let's go ahead and destroy all of the stuff outside of the one quadrant that we want, and add in our modifier, XZ clipping. Now, our back went away, as you can see. That's fine. We'll just extend, and then boom, boom, merge center. There we are. We'll just do a quick Smart UV project. But this is a little bit more of a complicated object because we're going to want to use two different materials. So we'll go over to the Materials tab and add two materials in. First material we'll set up as primary, second material we'll set up as secondary. And all of these faces get by default assigned to primary. So we're just going to make secondary our glow. And we'll just assign it like this. There we go. And that should do. Let's name it something like maneuver head. Nozzle. Let's call it nozzle. Nozzle? Head? Well, I don't know what the correct term is. Whatever. And now we're going to pop on over into Unity, and we'll pull this into existence. Why are thrusters... Oh, that's the thruster saved shape. The object is... the actual file is named thrusters as well. Confused me for a second. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at our thrusters. We don't need any of the things besides the ones that we created, so let's just delete these, and here is our final shape. So let's give it some materials. We'll want our default material, and our burn material. There we go. Now we have some more options. If we wanted to, we could use something besides the default. For example, we could do heavy, which would give it a kind of industrial look, and it would separate the nozzle from the rest of the ship. Now we're going to go and see if our pivoting center is correct, and it is. So that'll give us, you know, a little bit more than 45 degrees. Maybe it'll give us 60 degrees in every direction. So that'll be nice and easy for us to figure out and for us to implement. Now, in terms of how it looks connected up to a portal, let's find a place to connect it up and just take a quick look. Get away. Let's hook it up right here, just for kicks. Oh. Let's put the nozzle inside the base and move the whole thing. Clickety click click click. Holding down Control, so it's all going to be even numbers. I think it's actually set to half numbers, but whatever. And stoomp. That's what it'll look like. Now, if that looks suitably control thruster-esque, then that's what we'll go with. If I took a look at it and I was like, you know, that's just not control thrustery enough, then I could go back and make some changes, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go back into the mesh. I don't like this here. I think what I want to do is put in some fins. So we're going to just put in some cheap fins by grabbing here, 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 and over here we will say individual origins, and we'll extend like this. And shrink like this, and pull it back like this. And then we will switch over to faces, hit these guys, and flip their direction. And now what we want to do is unwrap just these faces. Why not? And we'll go over to the Materials tab. And this actually has all three materials already in it because the other engine already uses all three. We don't need all three. Let's delete the tertiary. Let's delete the tertiary. And here in secondary, we will assign these guys to this. And we'll also take the top of this pipe and make it secondary, like so. And the outside here, secondary. There. Now let's save it, go back into Unity, and you're not going to update? That's odd. What's going on here? It may be that I broke the file, and therefore it's not updating the mesh properly, but that would be kind of strange. Let's take a quick look here. Where is... Oh, is it because it has no material? Secondary material. Should be purple, though. Heavy. Drop. Ah, I guess it was because it didn't have a material. That's weird. I've never seen that bug before. Usually if there's no material, it's just purple. But I guess it was trying to default to a non-existent material and it was screwing up or something. Who knows? Anyway, that is a cheap little technique. It didn't turn out quite as nice as I wanted, but those are the sorts of things that you can tweak all day and all night. And of course, since it's just a prototype, you don't want to spend too much time on it, but still, I want to take a little bit of pride in my actions, right? There we go. Close enough. I think that is a suitable maneuvering jet. I'm not going to program it on screen, but that's that. I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye. If you keep at something like using Blender to mock up stuff, you'll find a lot of shortcuts and you'll get real used to how it works, and your speed will just continuously increase. So don't get too hung up on the fact that you might be slow and awkward at using Blender and you can't figure out good ways to do this and that and the other thing. Just keep at it, and you know, eventually you'll get real fast. And I'm certainly no pro, but you can see that I just put this together in a couple of seconds and it doesn't look too bad. I might change these out for proper vents or something. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So for example, I could take these here, shrink, and shrink. I could just drop these straight down like so. Yeah, that'll do. Save that and go back over. Yeah, I think that's probably more like what I wanted to see. But anyhow, it's not that hard to do. It just takes time, and over time you will get faster and faster and faster at it. That's it. Have a good one.